we are looking forward to this presentation. I got to get all the software up to speed, so I'll get everything logged in. So if you get here while I'm setting stuff up, say hi. Let me know your name and where you are. So are you like where you're located? I do have a software that kind of gathers all the comments. So if you want to tell me what platform you're watching it on too, that's super helpful. So we're going to get this last one set up. We're going to make sure the screen share works. No, it is not. Screen share. Window share. There we go. Awesome. Sweet. Okay. Cool. Oh, it is sharing the wrong screen. See, this is why we run through this while you guys are before. So if you get here before this is all figured out, just know I will be cutting all of this part out. There we go. Now it's working. Perfect. And I wish it was more like a picture in a picture instead of me here. Customize, no. Okay. Well, there we go. Sweet. All right. Looks like we got everything set up now. It looks like we're live on all the platforms. So if you are here, please say hi. Please let me know where you are joining us from. And we will officially get started. Okay. Like I said, everything that we've done so far, that will all get cut out and we'll start fresh from here. Okay, good morning. My name's Chris Guyman, the Time Freedom Lawyer, and I am super excited about this presentation today. I've had a lot of conversations recently about people just saying like, this isn't what success should feel like. You know, like you're on paper doing everything right. You know, like you're working hard, you've got a good service, like you care about your clients, you're doing all of the right things, and it just doesn't seem to be working. And I get it. That's super, super frustrating. And because of that, I kind of wanted to talk about how to fix it because, I mean, don't get me wrong. There's lots of people out there that aren't doing the right things and they're not getting results. And that makes sense. But when you feel like you're doing all of the right things and, there we go. Yeah. If you feel like you're doing all of the right things and it's just not getting you the results that you think you deserve, that's where I think it gets the most frustrating, right? And especially as attorneys, I feel like as we're doing all of the right things, we end up getting more stressed and we feel even more behind and we feel like we have even less time. And for all of that stress and effort that we're putting into it, it feels like we're not getting nearly the amount of money that we should be for what we're doing, right? So if you resonate with any of those feelings, like you're doing the right thing, but you feel constantly behind, you don't have enough time or money or energy to build the life you love living, this presentation is for you. And we're going to talk about how to solve those things. So jumping in though, this is my wife and I. This is her story. So I did not get her permission to share this story. So we'll see if she is watching and if what she says when she hears me say it. But I got a message on my watch and I thought it was her, but it wasn't. So we're safe. So recently my wife has been working out with one of her friends for a long time, and they are religious. They go to the gym 4 to 5 times a week at least. They are very, very intentional with it. And she just wasn't getting the results that she wanted to, and nor was her friend. And so the two of them decided that they would hire a fitness coach to help them with their workouts and stuff. So they hired her and they were working with her. And this coach shared a pretty interesting thing because one of the things my wife was doing was it's called HIIT. It's like a high intensity, like interval training kind of program mixed with music and dancing and stuff. So I obviously haven't been, so I can't tell you exactly what it is, but that's what it was like. And she was doing it. I mean, she was doing it for an hour. So they were like just high intensity cardio for an hour. And she's like, how can I do that, 3 times a week or more sometimes, and not be getting results. And it was a very interesting thing where she pointed out that when your heart rate gets too high, and I want to say it was like 140 or 145, something like that, your body interprets that as stress, and goes into survival mode. It was a very interesting thing here where your body doesn't know if you're doing it on purpose or not. And so when you hit those high stress points, your body instantly goes into survival mode, which is where you start packing on fat. And especially in the areas you don't want to be packing on fat, right? Like your body is intentionally trying to survive. And because of that, these high interval intensive training sessions that she was doing was actually causing more harm than good. Working harder was literally what was causing the problem. And so they ended up switching and doing some weight training, intense, weight training and lower heart rate cardio activities. And she's seen massive results since then. And it was literally the answer of working harder was the problem. And I've kind of noticed this in my own life as well. I am hate to admit this, but naturally lazy person. I don't love just the grind. Like that's just not who I am. I've always tried to find the fastest and most easy solution to things. And that's ended up being very beneficial for me. And I never understood why. And once I started learning these principles, and I've kind of gone into this deep dive on this, why is working harder making it worse for me? And the more and more I study on it, the more and more I realize that I'm not saying you shouldn't work hard. That's not what I'm saying. But sometimes working too hard is actually what the problem is. And law school only perpetuates that even more. So in law school, we were kind of taught 3 big lies. One is that your value to the client is your time, that you need to trade your time for money, and that the clients, they value what they want is your time. That is probably the biggest lie that we were taught in law school. No client wants your time. What they want is the outcome that your time produces. Being a lawyer and being smart and all the things that you know how to do, those things produce outcomes. That's what your clients want. And they don't care if it takes you 15 minutes or 50 hours. What they want is the outcome, and they'll pay for the outcome. Obviously, our services and the things that we do are incredibly valuable, and clients will happily pay for that. But then the confusion that we have is that they want to pay for our time, where they actually want to pay for the outcome. The second is that our worth is therefore calculated through our effort. Again, we've been trained to bill by the hour, and you'll see this badge of honor that you'll have lots and lots of different attorneys kind of wear on their chest is like, hey, I am working insane hours. I billed 50 hours this week, or I worked 60, 70 hours a week, right? That first big law firm that I talked to literally said, kiss your family goodbye. You'll see them in 3 years. And they said, I needed to bill 40 hours a week, and would realistically, especially as a new associate, not knowing everything, that I'd probably have to work 70 plus hours to make that happen. That's, again, tying our worth to the wrong thing, right? Working too hard. And the last thing is, the only way to increase your revenue is by increasing your workload, which is the same principle that we've been talking about so far, right? So all that being said, how do we fix it? Hopefully you're seeing that by now, that our value is more than just our time, right? So let's talk about how to fix it. But first, before we talk about how we fix it, I want to ask you a question, because this question is going to help us decide what to do next. And that question is, what did you imagine success would feel like? And you can drop it in the comments. You can admit it to yourself. You can share if you're willing to share. I would love to hear you share. But I'm going to sit on this question for probably another 30 seconds, maybe a minute, because I really want you to think through this. Like, what did you imagine success would feel like? Frequently, people like to ask the questions of how do you define success? And that question seems to be almost easier. I have lots of money, or I have lots of time, or I can go to, Kirks and Caicos on vacation, or whatever, Disney World, obviously, right? The number of Disney trips that I go to is the direct measurement of my success, or whatever, right? But I think it's worth taking it one step further. How did you think you would feel? So if you're here, one of two things, right? You're either not feeling successful. Maybe you're not making as much money as you wanted to or whatnot. Or you're here because you are feeling successful, or you should feel successful, I guess, is the stage, right? You are billing a lot of hours. You do have clients. Your clients are happy, and it just is a little off. So I want you to really, I'm going to ask it one more time, and then we're going to move forward. But I want you to think for a second. What did you imagine success would feel like? And does it feel like this? So whether you're successful or not, I want you to answer to yourself. You don't have to put this one in the chat. Did you imagine success would feel like how you feel right now? I'm guessing the answer is no. If it's yes, great. I would love to hear how you got there. But I'm loving the answers that are coming in. Calm and present for my kids, not stressed and frazzled. That's a big one. My wife and I were just talking about that last night, funny enough, of how do we maximize the limited amount of time we have with our kids and not have it be a stressful situation. So I like that one a lot. Other thoughts that I'm seeing are, less stress, able to focus on my family. Okay, it looks like we're getting a reoccurring thought here. A more robust law firm and more money. Enjoying the law. That was a good one. So yeah, there's a lot of good ones here. So, and I feel like that's the same thing for me, is just, I knew getting into this profession that it would be stressful, but I wanted the compensation to be worth it, right? So, and that to me comes with enjoyment, enjoying what I do, enjoying the impact that I make, and enjoying the lifestyle that my law firm provides for me. That was a big one for me. That's what I feel like success should feel like. So I love some of these where, even the things like a more robust law firm and more money. That's a great example here of the correct tools to be focusing on how to create a life you love living. I believe that in order to live a life you love living, to have a life you love living, you need time, you need money, and you need energy, right? If you make $1 million a month, but have no time to spend with your family or do the things you love, it's not worth it. If you have all the time in the world, right? Like if you are homeless and no money, that doesn't do it either, right? Arguably, I would love to see what people think, who is actually happier, the person who makes $1 million a month but can't spend it doing the things that they want to do, or the person who has all the time in the world but no money. There's a lot of arguments there on who's actually happier. But the third element here is the money element, or the energy element. You have to have time, you have to have money, then you still have to have energy left over to do the things you love, right? So if you are making good money and you get off of work by 5 and you get home, but you're just shot and can't think about anything else, and all you can do is watch TV, that doesn't do it either, right? So you have to have time, money, and energy to do what you love. So with that in mind, let's talk about how we get there, okay? So, and again, the root problem here, in order to make more money, you have to get more cases. And the more cases you get, the more revenue you get, right? That makes sense. I think we can all mathematically see that one here, right? The more revenue you get, the more responsibility you get. The more responsibility you get, the less time you have. And that's that less time that's causing more stress. So what we need to do then is we need to break that link of directly doing more work to get more revenue. That's the only way we're going to fix this. So why working harder is making it worse is that if revenue is tied to your time, growth requires more of you. So when you push harder, you increase dependency. So the harder you work, it only creates more work for you. And it's kind of an ever stuck cycle, right? So we got to break that. So there's 3 secrets here from this presentation that I want you to get from this. You were trained to sell time, not create outcomes. And we need to change that. We need to switch from selling time to selling outcomes. Once you have disconnected the value of what you sell to your time, secret number 2 is you can then start reclaiming your time by eliminating low value work. So right now, if you sell your time for money, then an hour is worth an hour. So if you're the one stapling the papers and shoving it in an envelope and licking the stamps and taking it to the post office, that could take you 30 minutes. And that's worth just as much to your client, or just as much as to you as negotiating a multi-million-dollar deal, right? You make the same, whether you're stuffing an envelope or negotiating a multi-million-dollar deal. However, to your client, negotiating the multi-million-dollar deal is worth millions more than stuffing an envelope, right? So once we have disconnected value from time, we then lean into secret number 2, which is we eliminate the low value work, which leads into the last element here of most of the time when people talk to me about how they hate the law or they're unhappy or something of that nature, it's usually not the law that they actually hate. It's the way that they're practicing it. And I'll show you that by tying it all together. So you were taught to sell time, not outcomes. I just need to work harder and be more disciplined. Let's fix that, right? The problem is an effort. The problem is that your price is linked to your time. So how do we fix this? We need to get to the value equation. And I know I've got another slide that talks about this, but I kind of want to preemptively jump into that. And so it's going to be the next slide. But let's talk about it from a logistical standpoint. I'm going to come right here and I'm going to remove. Yes, perfect. Okay, so I want you to think of it this way, right? Value is what your client receives, right? So if you help your client win $10,000, the value that they received from that case is $10,000, right? Price is what they pay for that. And so if you were able to help someone win $10,000 and it cost them $1,000 in attorney's fees, who here would take that deal? Knowing that, right? Like, hey, if I give my attorney $1,000, I will receive $10,000. How many of your clients do you think would take that deal? Would you take that deal? Is that a deal you would feel comfortable selling to your grandma? Hey, grandma, you give me $1,000, I'll give you $10,000 back. Is that a trade that you would feel comfortable selling? I have used the would you sell this to your grandma as like my favorite test of when I'm putting things together, like because I wouldn't feel comfortable selling a whole lot to my grandma. I would happily do an estate plan for my grandma for free, right? I'd love to do that. But would I sell it to my grandma for the price that I sell it to my neighbor or the random person I've never met, right? So hopefully you've answered that question by now. If your client is guaranteed to receive $10,000 and it costs them, or the price is $1,000, would you feel comfortable selling that to your grandma? And do you think your client would be excited about that trade? I think they would be, right? If I had a magic machine that every time I put $1 in, I got 10 out, I would put as many dollars in as I could, right? So value is what they receive, price is what they pay. Cost then is what it costs you as a company to provide that service. So you have received $1,000. How much does it cost you to receive that $1,000? And this is where a lot of attorneys get stuck, is they're like, well, it's my time. No, that is a cost, and that's a very expensive cost. I think that the cost of the CEO, the founder's time is a lot. Every hour that we're spending is a lot. Now, as you grow and scale, then obviously you have the cost of the employees that you hire and the office space and all those types of things. It becomes a little bit easier to quantify. But I want you to be thinking of every relationship in your law firm as what the client's receiving, how much they're paying for it, and how much are you spending to get that money, right? So they're spending money to get value. and you're spending money to get value. And the perfect business is one where the client gets 10,000, they pay 1,000, and it only costs you 100, right? That's the perfect business. You receive a 10x return on your money, and they receive a 10x return on their money. Obviously, the bigger the gap, the better the business. But I want you to be thinking of it that way. Once you've changed that, it's so easy. Once you've done that, then when you get to the next step, is you can then start asking like, okay, now that I know I can get my client $10,000, who needs to be doing what in order to get that, right? Because now all of a sudden, we don't need the attorney to stuff an envelope. And wait, maybe we don't even need an envelope to be stuffed. Maybe we could send an email instead. And that's the fun part of business, is once we disconnect the price from the cost to us and link it to the value to the client instead, now we are free to drop the cost to us as much as possible. And it's really hard for the human brain to think of that. Like, well, if I do less, then they're going to get less. Not necessarily, right? Like we use a lot of templates in our office, and I spend quite a bit of time building the templates and the systems to fill those out. Well, because of that and the questionnaires that we have and the systems that we have, the amount of time it takes me or one of the attorneys in my firm to draft a motion for temporary orders is often only about 15 to 30 minutes if they're using the correct systems. Something that used to take us 3 or 4 hours now takes us 15 minutes. Here's the cool part though, because we have all those systems and stuff, the quality of the work is actually higher. So the value that the client's getting has gone up and the cost to me has gone down. They pay the same, right? So it's become a better business because they've received more, they've paid the same amount, and it's cost me less. So the gap between the price is better, right? You don't always have to link the value that goes down because the cost to you goes down. That's often not true. So how do you do that? Yeah, this is the value. See, I told you that not the next slide, but the second to next slide was going to be the value conversation. I just felt like it, as I was talking, I was like, this is going to make more sense as we go. The best thing here is, this was not part of the presentation, so I'm going a little off script. I hope you're okay with that. But what I like to do, because attorneys are so used to tracking our time and linking internally the value to the client to the time we spend, I have found the fastest and best way to reduce the cost to us is by doing a time and energy audit. And so I have one of these audits. It's part of my paid coaching program. And again, I'm going off script, so hopefully my team hears me and can put this together quickly while we're talking. But at the end of this presentation, I'm going to offer a bonus. And I'm going to tell you right now that that's the bonus. I'm going to give you that time and energy audit for free, so you can start doing this. And effectively what you do is you track your time, and there's a analysis in there where you decide from a scale of 1 to 5, how much did you enjoy the work that you were doing? And then you put the dollar amount, the value that activity produced. I have found that to be the fastest way to start eliminating the low value things, where you say, you know what, like I don't feel comfortable charging my client to stuff an envelope at $150. And so I end up not billing for it. So the value ends up being 0 to you because you didn't bill for it. And then we find a solution. So that's going to be the fastest way. There's a lot of different ways we do it. And I built a whole coaching program on how to help people and create time freedom, right? But that's probably the fastest and easiest way to do it. And so I'm going to give that to you guys for free just for being here. Okay. Because that's going to make the most sense. All right. So the last element here then is that you don't hate the law. You hate practicing it this way. And I would love for you to challenge me on this. If you disagree with me, drop it in the comments. But if you've ever thought, man, maybe I'm just not cut out for this, or maybe I shouldn't be a lawyer, maybe I shouldn't have gone to law school. Statistically, 50% of people who went to law school have a non-law required job within 5 years of graduating, which tells me a lot of people are getting out of the law quickly. And so a lot of people feel this way, right? But my challenge to you, and if you disagree with me, I'm looking at if you see me looking over here, it's because the comments are over here and I'm looking to see if someone's challenging me on this. Feel free to challenge me on this, but I want to get you thinking, hopefully for a second, that maybe it's not the law that you hate. Maybe it's just how you've been practicing it. So, because I truly believe that you can build a life you love living. So most attorneys assume burnout means they've chose the wrong career, they're bad at business, or success just requires sacrifice. And I'm here to tell you that that's not true. Burnout usually comes from too many cases, which, as we've talked about before, is too much stress, right? The constant reactivity. So because we are living in a high stress environment, crap's being thrown at our clients and they're throwing that at us. And then we are structuring our day based off of the fires that are being presented to us, which I think is where I don't think it's ironic that the client fires is a cause of burnout, right? I think those are related on purpose. That usually comes from not having the correct operating system, a system that helps you organize this and solve the problems consistently and systematically so that you no longer are putting out fires. As a little teaser, an example of this is your communication system. So next month, the presentation we're doing is on communication. And I'm going to show you, it's just when we said operating system, it made me think of this. I just had a client that I told that I wouldn't talk, I pretty much what you wouldn't hear from me for 6 weeks. And they were so grateful. And my team looked at me and they're like, are you kidding? Like, you literally just bought yourself 6 weeks of not having to talk to that client again. And they said, thank you. And I was like, yes, you are right. That is a perfect example of an operating system that works, right? So burnout usually comes from too many cases, which means too much stress, constant reactivity, and no operating system, right? So when the structure changes, when you have a system, an operating system in place that helps you manage these things, one, you can provide more value to your client. And the more value that they receive, the more they're willing to pay. Now, I used an example earlier of 10,000 and 1,000. Well, what if you were able to give them 100,000? Would they be willing to pay 10,000 for that? Would that be any less fair that they are now giving you $10,000 instead of $1,000? Or would they be grateful for the fact that you gave them 100,000 instead of 10? As you start realizing the value to your clients and helping them understand the value, you will start providing them more value, and they will happily pay you more because you're giving them more, right? Would you pay someone $1 million if they gave you 10? Right? The rate, the fairness doesn't change. In fact, I would argue it's more fair and more kind of you to give someone 10 million and then pay 1 than to give someone 10,000 and then pay you 1,000. Right? Wouldn't you rather $9,000 or $9 million? Right? As long as you're providing them more value, they will pay you more. As long as they actually value it, right? Like, if I give you the greatest crocheting kit in the world, like the greatest tools in the world, would you give me $1 million for that? Probably not, unless you like crochet. But it's got to be valuable to them, right? So we don't just add features so that we can charge more. We provide more value so that we can charge more, because they're getting more. So when the structure changes, first of all, their caseload is going to improve because you can then take less cases because you're providing more value per case. That allows your stress to drop. And sometimes that in and of itself is enough to have your enjoyment return. But that's just the first step here. We start doing that in each stage of our life. We start building these systems that allow us to produce these results consistently and effectively over time. And every time we do that, once we do that, we can then start also unlinking it from our own work, right? Originally I handled every single case in my law firm, and then I handled some cases and someone else handled others. And we got to the point where my team now handles all of the cases. And the cool part is, because I have a team, and the people who are good at communication are the ones in charge of communication, and the people who are good at legal analysis or the ones doing legal analysis, the deliverable to my client went up. And that was really hard for me to admit to myself, that by removing me from the day-to-day delivery, the value to the client went up. And here was the cool part, because I've set it up in a time freedom way. When the system isn't working, I have the time, money, and energy to step in and help. And so one of the conversations I had yesterday was with an upset client of one of my team members. And honestly, my team was frustrated too. My team wanted to fire the client, and the client wanted to fire my team. And the purpose of that call was to facilitate the mutual firing of each other, right? But as I got in there and started talking to them, and that's one of my skill sets, is understanding and connecting with people. As I was working through that with them, I realized that this wasn't actually an issue of us not liking them and them not liking us. It was a communication issue. And so I spent about 15 to 30 minutes working with this client about helping her understand the process and the things and everything that we're going to go through next months in our training. And by the end, she was so grateful. And she ended up paying a large portion of her bill and wanting to work with us again. And the cool thing is I was then able to take that information, meet with my team, and they had a better understanding, and now they want to work with her. All of that came from the fact that I had built a system that it gave me enough time that I could do that. The truth is, almost anybody could do what I did that day, at least with a little bit of training, right? But where that really came into play is because I had the time and the energy to have that conversation. So when the structure changes, not only does your stress go down, your caseload improve, your income go up, but your enjoyment comes, because honestly, that made me feel good. That was way more value on the energy happiness scale than 10 hours of video games, right? There's no amount of dead time that would have given me as much enjoyment as helping someone like that, right? So I hope you believe that. I hope if the takeaway here is that you don't need a different career, you need a different operating system. I'm going to say that again. If success shouldn't feel the way you're feeling right now, you don't need a different career. You need a different operating system. So what's the real cost then of how you're practicing? Too many active cases competing for attention. Too many daily decisions, draining mental energy. No margin to think strategically or to serve, like I talked about. No clear end to the workday, right? A lot of this is you take the stress home with you because it's stuck on your mind. High stress without proportional reward, and no time to do the things with your family. So my question to you, here's your red pill moment from the Matrix, right? Are you willing to redesign your practice intentionally? Or are you willing to continue managing overload and hoping it improves? One of the best things I ever was taught was that not choosing is still choosing. So are you going to choose to redesign your practice intentionally? Or are you going to unintentionally choose to continue managing overload and hoping it improves? With that, I want to show you the system. I want to show you how to create this operating system, or at least how I've created the operating system to reclaim my time and help others do the same. So this is the exact framework I use to help attorneys reclaim 10 hours a week. That was the primary focus of when I started helping other people, was how do I help people reclaim 10 hours per week. With that time, you can obviously go to use and make more money, or you can do more of what you love, or a little bit of both. Or you can take some of that time and build more systems and only get more and more, right? So what I do is I focus on time, money, and energy. So you can see that there at the bottom, right? If I focus on time first, that is going to help every attorney at every level. If you see a lot of my content from years ago, I used to talk about creating a 5-figure 4-day work week. 5-figure meaning you were earning $10,000 a week, and 4-day work week was meaning you were working 30 to 32 hours a week, right? Which was cool. It wasn't until I posted one time, I was like, how would you feel like what would change in your life if you were making $10,000 a week? Because a lot of attorneys aren't. Very few attorneys are hitting 500,000 a year in gross revenue, right? I had a very good friend of mine. His law firm did $70 million last year, and he said poor. He's like, if I made 10,000 a week, I would feel poor compared to what he was currently doing, right? And it really hit me because that's true, right? That is a great benchmark, and I still love helping people get to that benchmark. I think that's one of the first benchmarks of helping people create financial freedom. But I focus on time first because the attorney making 70 million a year, if he gets 10 hours back, he could probably turn that into another couple million, right? Where those of us not making 70 million a year, 10 hours back is still incredibly valuable for us, and it can help us get to the next level, right? So by focusing on time first, I'm able to free you up to then create the money and energy that you want. Now, I will say that money is one of the most powerful tools for creating that additional energy. Which is why I focus on time first, money second, and energy third. Energy is ultimately where that ultimate fulfillment is going to come from. If you look at the Maslow hierarchy of needs, and you look at the top of the pyramid, those are all energy activities, but you're going to notice that you can't even focus on those energy activities until you have enough food and water. And money is a great way of creating food, water, and shelter, right? So that's why it's built that way. That's also why we've named the program the Fast Track to Freedom. And it's powered by Attorney Freedom University. I created Attorney Freedom University a couple of years ago, and the system ended up being built into that Attorney Freedom University. What it is effectively a step-by-step operating system of what to do with your days and times to create the time, money, and energy you need to produce your results, right? And so how we do that, weekly accountability. Again, I'm hoping you're paying attention. This is what we provide in the program, but this is also the system, right? Creating clear goals, creating a clear plan on how to achieve those goals, and then executing on that plan. When you execute, you then need to figure out what's working and what's not. So we need to know what actions you're taking and what those actions produce. Once we have that information, we can then refine your plan until you are achieving your goals, and then we level up the goals, we level up the plan, and rinse and repeat until you have the time, money, and energy to create the life you love living. That's how we do it. We do that through weekly accountability, group coaching calls, those types of things. But at the end of the day, that's the system, right? With clear execution milestones, right? So when people ask me, like, what do you do? Are you a coach? Or do you create courses? Like, I don't have a good answer for that. And I finally was like, you know what? I implement operating systems for law firms. Like, that's what I do. Because yes, we have a course. Yes, we have a mastermind. Yes, we coach, but it's not just any of those things. It's a combination of those things that we boiled into a step-by-step system. So you just use I literally put it in a Google Doc with check marks, so you can check it off, and then links to the resources on that, so that you can ensure you're doing the things necessary to get those results. My entire goal with creating this was to help you reclaim 10 hours a week. Because as you're going through that and thinking of, like, what is my time worth? I'd love you to do that math. Like, what would 10 hours a week be worth to you? Obviously, if you're making 70 million a year, that's going to be worth a whole lot more than if you are making 10,000 a month. But there's still a number there, even if you just take your billable hour, right? The other question I want you to ask, and then we're going to actually do the math here for a second, is what's your financial goal? Like, if you were able to achieve your goal, how much more is that than what you're making, right? Because same thing, right? As we're working through the time and the money there, Alex Hormozy once said, he's like, if you're currently making 250,000 a year and you want to get to $1 million, how much is it costing you to not know how to get to $1 million? Obviously, the answer in that one is 750,000, right? But understanding those opportunity costs are important here as you're making decisions, right? So I did the math here because I know lawyers hate math. I was like, all right, so if you're reclaimed 10 hours a week, what would that be worth? The average billable hour in America is $495. I know some jurisdictions that's going to be high or low depending on where you're at. I talk to my friends in California and they're like, really? That's it? I talk to my buddies here in Utah and they're like, man, I wish I could charge that much. So I know that's different from wherever you're at, but using that average number, 10 hours a week would be just shy of 20,000 in a month, right? But even if you only reclaimed 2 hours a week, what would 2 hours a week be worth? that number would be about $4,000 in a month, right? So my question to you is, what would you trade for that? Like, if you got would you trade 1 hour to get 10 hours back? Does that make sense, right? Would you give up 1 hour now to get 10 hours a week back? Would you trade 1 hour to get 5 hours back? How about 1 hour to get 40 hours back? Is that a trade you'd be willing to make? I want to know. Like, I'm looking at the comments. Is that something you would trade? 1 hour to get 10 back, 5 back, or 40 back? Which number, how many hours would you need to get back to give up one of your hours now? With that being said, we set this program up to be effectively 1 hour a month in price, plus a bonus up front. So what I realized is, in order to get people success, I needed to be able to jump in there and do a little bit of a crash course to get people up to speed. So originally I used to do a 12-week group coaching program designed to get people to that $10,000 a week gross revenue, right? Back then, it was a really easy sell. I said, hey, give me 1 week of income, $10,000, and I will guarantee that you make $10,000 a week thereafter. And if you don't, I'll give you your money back. Straight up, right? So you either you get 100% ROI every single week for the rest of your life, or you get your money back. Not surprisingly, it was very easy to sell. The problem was, it was just hard to deliver. We met for once a week. I taught for 30 minutes and they asked questions for 30 minutes. And it worked. Every single person who used the checklist got there within 6 to 9 weeks. It was very, very high success rate. I never had somebody complete everything on the checklist and not get to 10,000 a week within 12 weeks. Had lots of people not complete the checklist. Don't get me wrong. Okay. It was not 100% in the fact that everybody who paid for it got the results, but every single person who did the checklist got the results. It was surefire way, right? Downside is I could only help people once a month or once every 3 months, as we would run these 12-week cycles. So we switched it over, put all the information on demand, and then we opened up. So now all the information that I used to teach in 30-minute increments is now all available on demand. They can watch it whenever they want. And I opened up, instead of an hour a week of Q&A, we opened it up to 2.5 hours so that people could come and go as they needed. And as I was doing that, I was like, okay, how do I deliver this to people in the most affordable way possible? And the answer was something like this, right? Take everything, and instead of charging $9.95, or the price before I started this event was $4,995. And my team went in and said, okay, let's charge $2,500. Let's drop it by a fourth. Same guarantee. Okay. I'm skipping all of this because I want you to see this part. If you join the program and you don't reclaim 10 hours a week, you just send me a DM and I will either help you get there or I will coach you one-on-one. Just a $2,000 package or up for free until we get you there. So there's 2 guarantees, I should say. So Attorney Freedom University, that's $495 a month, 1 billable hour a month. The Fast Track to Freedom then is, it should say 2005. So the total price of the first month is $2,500. And then for however long you stay, it's $495 a month thereafter. So if you complete the 12-week checklist and you don't hit 10,000 a week or more, I will refund the $2,005 that you've paid. Okay. And if you're in an Attorney Freedom University and you don't reclaim 10 hours a week, I will either coach you for free until you do. Is the answer, right? So I was like, how do I make this work with it? And the answer is, the only risk now is doing nothing. We go back to the slide here of you deciding, right? Are you going to redesign your practice intentionally, or are you going to continue managing the overload and living the life you're currently living? Depending on what you decide, this is how you do it, right? So we host this program on a platform called Skool, spelled S-K-O-O-L. They have limitations on how we can do it. What you do is when you sign up for Attorney Freedom University, they'll have you pay the $495. And then that will bill every month for as long as you want to be in the program. There's no contracts or anything like that. Whenever you decide you're done, you're done. my goal is to provide you so much value that you're like, holy crap, I can't not give you this $4.95 because I get so much on the back end. Part of my program is I literally create the numbers for you so you can see what this thing is producing. And if it's not a 10x return on your money, then you should leave. Like, that's straight up, right? The other step then is, once you've joined Attorney Freedom University, you go to that Fast Track to Freedom program, and you'll see it right there. It's right in the classroom. And I've dropped that price down to the 2005. So that price is available this weekend. I would say today, but today's Friday, and you know that by the end of the day, I'm not working for the rest of the weekend. So Monday morning, when I get into the office, I'm going to go in and change that price back up to the $4,995. So if you can get it now through the weekend, then you can get it for that price. So the total price will be $2,500 for this first month, and then $495 thereafter. And then, as I promised before, we've got a bonus, right? So whether you sign up for Attorney Freedom University or not, if you will send me a message, you can put a comment in any of the platforms that you're watching this on, or you can send me a direct message. But if you send me a message and mention that you would like the bonus, my team will send you that, the tracker, the time. Why can I not? All I want to say is time tracker, and that's not the phrase. The time and energy audit. I knew it would come to me. So if you will send me a message, either a comment or a message saying you want that, then I will send you that time and energy audit and show you how to use it so that you can start tracking your time and analyzing those low value tasks. Now, if you're having struggles with that, or you notice like, hey, when I start doing this, I start making less money, that's because your value has been linked to your time. And again, reach out and we can help you with that. So as always, thank you for being here. I appreciate your time. I love doing these presentations. This really is like the highlight of my week. So if you ever need anything, please let me know. And if you have trouble trying to sign back in and sign up for any of these things, let me know. But whether you sign up or not, we're here to help. We are setting it up so that we can start doing more of these. Hopefully, we've been doing them about once a month. Our goal is to get to once a week. In order for us to do that, though, we will need questions. So if you're having questions and things that you want us to present on, please just reach out and let me know. And my team and I can start building these presentations out. So as always, thank you for being here. Awesome to see everybody in the comments. It makes it worth it when I see the comments come in. So thank you. If you need anything, let me know. If not, we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys. Awesome. So if you're still here, it means that you're seeing this live. So some of the programs are about 30 seconds behind the others. So I have to stop talking and then let everything run out. And it looks like that last program is officially done. So that's it, but we'll edit this out too. So thanks, you guys. If you ever see the before and afters, drop a comment saying that you got to see it before it got edited. That's always fun for me. So see ya. Bye-bye.